Sorry for the late start. The restream just was not working. I reset my stream key, then I had to go back and fix it on the other thing, then I had to reset it again, and it still wasn't working. It was a whole mess, but hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Tucker Tuesday. How we doing out there, chat? Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. Oh, boy. Let me blow my nose real quick. Hold on. I got myself all worked up. Sorry. What's going on? Let's see who we got hanging out in the chat. Matt Barnes, hello. Mike Savage, Bishop. What's going on? Bookworm, just another guy. Advocates, Toku. Shadowclaw, Shiru, Eric. Patty O Furniture. Damn. Joshua, hello. Frank Cap, it's okay, son. You're still the most reliable one. I wasn't a half an hour late, so I'll count that as a plus. Zobles, hello, beautiful. Boba Fett, Big Dave, damn. All you motherfuckers. All of you are the ones who are the ball lickers. It'll be a long night due to bad weather and idiots. Yeah, I heard it's about to be not super great. They said hail? I said, oh, hail no. Okay. No, I feel bad about that one. It's fine. I get it. It's okay. Atreyu, hello. Wishing my machines would stop being done. Well, they're machines, so that's kind of what they do. But I'm not going to do too much preamble, whatnot in the who's it's. I'm gonna tell you to smash the like button. I'm going to tell you to share it out. But I'm going to ask very nicely that if you feel like supporting all the donos and Streamlabs are listed down below. I'm thinking as I can over the next few days, hopefully by Sunday, I'm going to do another audit of the donations down below. Hopefully have some new ones up in there and all that fun stuff. So it's just an idea if you want to. And when I do this, the thing I do mostly is I try to get rid of the streams. I try to get rid of the donations that don't get hit very often. So if there's one down there that you like that you haven't seen in a while, let me know or hit it so it's fresh in my mind, because I feel a big chopping block a-coming. But we're going to jump right into the tuck, guys. So do the smashing and the liking and all that stuff.
Immigration into the United States is at its highest levels ever. Tens of millions of people have come here illegally over the past 15 years, and none of them will ever leave. Mostly they come from the poorest countries on the planet. We don't know anything about them, really. We don't know if they're pro-America. We don't know if they're hostile to the people who already live here. We don't know, in the case of the recent arrivals, what they're going to do for a living as robotics eliminate low-skilled jobs. So what's happening right now at the border, though it's often mentioned on TV, is really undersold as a story. This is changing America forever, and almost certainly for the worse, as we're watching it, and no one is doing anything about it. The governor of Texas occasionally makes noises about it. It's over his border that this human wave is flowing.
Yeah, but Texas is the one that has to deal with it, so who cares, right?
And yet he's taken no real steps to stop it. There are some media outlets that let you know that it's happening in general terms, but they don't seem particularly outraged by it. We're sitting here as our country is destroyed and no one's responding. And at some point you have to ask, why? Are the majority of Americans in favor of this? Of course not. In fact, no one's in favor of this. No one will defend this in public. No one will explain why we need it, why it's a good idea, how it's going to help this country, how your grandchildren will live in a better place because of it. People are just silent, like it's not even happening. And again, you have to ask why. And the answer, of course, is really simple, because they're afraid. They know they'll be punished if they say anything about it. The story of Peter and Lydia Brimelow explains why they're afraid. Peter Brimelow has been a journalist for 50 years, worked at a whole bunch of what are now called mainstream publications, was an editor there, Barron's, Forbes, National Review, Dow Jones, a legitimate old-school journalist. And in the late 90s, he began to ask questions about our immigration.
Well, old school journalists are like the #1 enemy of the state anymore because they ask old school journalist questions, and that's not allowed.
Scheme, is this really a good idea? Is it helping America? And of course, no one could answer those questions because the answer is obvious. No, it's destroying America, as it destroyed California, so it will destroy your state. That's certain. But for asking that question, he was fired from his jobs and shunted off into what we call the fringes. But he didn't stop. He started a website called Vdare.com. He runs it now with his wife, Lydia. And for the crime in the supposedly free country of opposing the immigration system currently in place, not the official system, but the actual system, where anyone from the poorest parts of America with no skills whatsoever can come here and immediately go on welfare, that's our current system. For saying that that's a bad idea, powerful forces have tried to destroy their lives, not just their lives, the lives of their family.
Because you can't just counter someone's ideas anymore. If you disagree with somebody, you have to immediately destroy everything they like and care about. Anybody that's remotely close to them, and most importantly, you have to defame them as immoral.
The justice system to do it, and needless to say, you probably guessed this, using something called the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has nothing to do with the South or poverty. It has to do with shutting down free speech in this country. They have descended on the Brimelows and have really kind of tried to destroy them. That's not an overstatement, but you judge for yourself. Because Lydia Brimelow, who helps run Vdare, joins us now to explain what's happened to her. Lydia, thanks so much for coming on. So...
What?
Soon may the cavemen come with birds and mice and some tasty numbs. One day when the critters come, we'll eat till our bellies are full.
All right, let me get these real quick. Oh, why you no load? If someone called me a journalist today, I'd be offended. Them might be fighting words. Oh, okay. What is going on with this computer now, too? Tips hat to you, Sin. Ravon. Hello, sir. How are you? And Fostonia, right before that, first on the Woo train, all aboard. Oh, just instantly knocked out. But we'll count it, because I am a generous God. We'll count it. Why not? 1. And we do have the gorilla train over here, too. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tucker. It'll be very nice to have our story told.
So I have known your husband sort of since he was not a controversial figure at all. And he became a controversial figure when he began to say things like, hey, why are we doing this? And he was immediately called a white nationalist, a white supremacist. And I remember very well his response, which is, no, I'm not. And if I was, I'd say so. But that kept up, and he wound up publishing with you Vdare online. That would seem not a particularly controversial thing to do in a free country, but for your family, it's been a very risky thing to do. So I hope that you will just, if you would, explain to us what the government, we'll start with the government, is trying to do to you for daring to oppose the immigration system.
I would be surprised. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the things that she said was the government was trying to put her into solitary.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard to believe. Everybody who hears this story says it's completely incredible. Peter founded Vdare Foundation, which has its main project of Vdare.com back in the late 90s. As you said, we're in our 25th year now, and I joined about 10 years ago. I do the fundraising and the back office work, and he handles everything that goes up on the website, Vdare.com. We're a nonprofit journalism enterprise, so everything that we do, all of our people are paid through generous donations from individuals. I can tell you we don't get any government grants or big foundation grants either. It's all just grassroots. And we're veterans of cancel culture at this point. So we've been.
Ooh, that's a good phrase. Veterans of cancel culture. I like that.
Kicked off a lot of mainstream services that most people use to distribute the media that they produce. And that is nothing compared to what we're facing right now, which started about 2 years ago, originating out of the Hate Crimes Division in the state of New York. A series of subpoenas were issued by Letitia James, first to Facebook, which I can explain a little bit in a minute, and then to us and our board members at Vdare Foundation with no clear trigger. They have refused to tell us what they're investigating. It's been 2 years of us just being crushed under this burden of investigation. The subpoenas were like 47 points each. They want us to turn over essentially.
So what it sounds to me, at least in my layman's understanding of this, that they are trying to like bury her in legal nonsense.
Every document that we have interacted with since 2016, and for a small organization, you know, at our peak we had 4 full-time employees. Right now we have 2. That's Peter and myself. This has just been an absolutely crushing burden. And I will say the Facebook subpoena was interesting because we had actually been kicked off of Facebook years previous. So we have not even been on Facebook to interact with Facebook in
hey, smash like, dipshits. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled tuck. Hold the Target swimsuits. All right, that was pretty good. Thanks, Steve Dave. I appreciate it. Damn, we're already almost at 10% to goal. You guys are fucking G's out there. Thank you so much. I know it's going to be a bit pedantic, but please do keep in mind what I said earlier about the donos that are going to get cut.
In many years, and they were asking for all of the data that Vdare had ever accumulated, created while we were on Facebook, which we had incidentally also requested. Vdare was kicked off Facebook the same day that every one of the people involved in our organization was kicked off, including myself. I had never posted anything political online at all, but they took all my baby pictures, the video of my daughter's first steps, which was not saved anywhere else. Facebook still has that. They have in fact told my lawyers that we are too dangerous to get our data back, including my daughter taking her first steps. So that was the first subpoena that Letitia.
That is insane. Facebook seems so... what's the word I'm looking for here? Petty, maybe? Retaliatory?
James through the hate crimes division,
may I ask you to pause for one
issue.
moment and just clarify something? So Facebook has called
Sure.
you too dangerous to possess your own baby pictures. Has Vdare advocated
I mean,
violence? Is there something we're missing for terrorism?
Never.
Insurrection, killing people?
Never.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
No, we
I
have
just
never
want to
been-
clarify that.
We've never even been accused of doing that, right? I mean, people use these scare smear words all the time: white nationalist, white supremacist, racist, xenophobe, whatever the flavor of the day is. So we get accused of being those things all the time, which we would argue we are not. But violence is something we have never been associated with. We're even careful to talk about the national divorce because of what implications that might have. I mean,
Yes.
we're living in a very high tension environment right now politically. And I think it's important that people choose their words very carefully and choose their actions very carefully. I think it's entirely justified that a large portion of the American population feels drawn to activism right now, but it needs to be chosen very carefully.
Yes.
And once you destroy something, you can't take it back. And our enemies
right.
should remember that too. Once they destroy us, what are they going to do then? But to go back to the subpoenas, we have our mainstream, when I say mainstream, what I mean is like in normal times when Vdare is just surviving cancel culture and putting out this message that demography is destiny and that America is legitimate and real, that we're a true culture and we have a national identity that's worth defending, and that immigration has massive negative effects that nobody's talking about. Our operation is about $800,000 a year. In the last
Jesus.
12 months, we've had to spend $500,000 just complying with the subpoenas.
Oh boy, she is fucked. Good luck, lady. God damn. Yikes. I do want to touch on the a little bit of the Fani Willis stuff. The insanely corrupt anti-Trump court case going on right now. Because it is almost unbelievable. It is almost unbelievable.
The key idea in democracy, to restate, is that the people get to choose their rulers. They do it most of the time through elections. That's how they express their preference. And their rulers rule them at their pleasure. When the population is no longer satisfied with a ruler, the population can change the ruler. It's called self-government. That is democracy in 2 sentences. So if you have a system that calls itself democratic, where people with power prevent the population from choosing certain people to lead them, then you have, by definition, a system that is not a democracy. Again, by definition, we don't.
But remember, democracy is under threat every day by the Nazi terrorist leader Donald J. Trump.
Be quiet!
Oh, damn,
Shut
okay.
up! Be quiet!
Good evening, Sin. Less than 2 weeks till I get married, and my future wife asked if I told you. She knows I watch you three as likes when you comment. Well, congratulations. Let's get hearts in the chat for Xeon. Fucking wonderful work, buddy. And congrats to the lucky lady.
Don't need to debate that. This is not something that we have encountered in the course of American history until this election cycle, when you have the frontrunner on the Republican side, in fact, the frontrunner overall, the man who, all things being equal, will be the next president, Donald Trump, invalidated from running for office in certain states. And that's the product of a longstanding effort by permanent Washington to prevent him from running and prevent voters from voting for him. And they're doing that through the courts.
I said this as a little bit of a meme, but I think we are getting closer and closer to Are You Now or Have You Ever Been a Trump Supporter? Because they are just pulling out all the stops. As much as he did nothing in his presidency, it gave the illusion that they didn't have as much control as they think. So they just can't have that.
As they so often do. Donald Trump is now fighting nearly 100 criminal charges across the United States, for which, if convicted, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, the first thing to know about these criminal charges is they're not what you were promised. You were told for 4 years that Donald Trump was a world historic criminal. And you might have sort of started to suspect that maybe there was some truth in that. Maybe he killed a building inspector in New Jersey in 1975, and the remains would be discovered in the Meadowlands, and you like Trump, but you'd have to admit, yeah, he's kind of a criminal. But that's not at all what happened. The 100 criminal charges that Donald
you know what, Ham and Beans, I think you're right. He didn't start any new wars, and that's why it's happening.
Trump faces right now are, with no exception at all, ridiculous. They're picayune, piddling, minor, or they're just absurd and completely made up. One of them comes from the state of Georgia, and it's for election interference, where Donald Trump apparently said something he wasn't supposed to say about the last election. He noted that it was rigged, which it was, we now know. So a district attorney there charged Trump and 18 others with trying to overturn the 2020 election by expressing unapproved opinions. That person, that DA, is called Fani Willis, and it turns out she's totally corrupt as the charges she filed. How corrupt? Well, you know this already. She's been sleeping with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. Fani Willis just testified about spending federal funds on vacations with this Wade guy. She said that Nathan Wade would pay for the trips and then she would pay him back with cash she kept in her mattress. Welcome to America 2024, ladies.
Imagine, just fucking take a second and imagine if some Republican judge or whatever prosecutor got caught with fucking stacks of cash in their mattress, what the outcome would be. Jesus Christ.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Fani Willis.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba. Yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you got cash to pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady.
You would not go to the ATM?
No.
Okay. So Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposits.
Okay. So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank?
I have money in my house.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from, if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. I had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. When it's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. You just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify.
Only women. Men, you're not allowed to save your money. Women, you save your man's money, actually. Yes. I wish you lived closer. Since we're having a big-ass party in October, Renfest style. Well, I don't know where what closer to is, but I'm definitely interested. Ham and Bean says, I'm calling bullshit. I think that's a pretty safe X to doubt on all this right here. Is this a notorious backwards dress? I think so. Oh my God, it is backwards. What the fuck?
When you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me.
So not only is she flamboyantly corrupt and stupid, she's also so filled with self-esteem that she can't bear being asked questions. She's enraged.
Well, because I think she is, in her mind, she is the only one that should be asking any questions. No one can question her, but she's going to question the shit out of everybody else.
Donald Trump is the bad guy, not her.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
And, well, no, look. I object to you getting records. You've been...
You're the witness, stupid. I don't think you're allowed to object. The skinniest part of MD. Okay, yeah, you're a little bit out there. Oof. Well, have a pint in my honor, sir. Thank you, Xeon. Appreciate it. Damn, we are almost at 10%. Nicely done, guys. Nicely done. Hey, Luna. Subpoena her bank account. That would be a trip. But it's going to be the usual. The government investigated the government and found no evidence of governmental wrongdoing.
Intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So,
I hate.
Women should not be allowed to vote. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. I think the train is done. I hate this. Oh, never mind. I lied. This level of smugness. It hurts my teeth. Like, you know when you bite something that's a little bit harder than you thought and it like rattles your eyeballs a little bit? That's what this does to me. Ravon, train time. Also, hey, Luna. And Matt Barnes, Broad just admitted on the stand to campaign fraud. Why is she not in the clink? I think we know why. I think we do know why, too. The judge should have held her in contempt right there. Should have. Should have, but didn't. Thank you, Ravon and Matt Barnes. Over 10% to goal. Nicely done, guys. Thank you very much.
my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
You did that. I did that. We all did that. That's what happens when you take a person from young childhood and tell that person, you're wonderful, no matter what they do, smearing crap on the wall, and you call it art. You wind up with someone who's like an egomaniac and impossible to deal with no capacity for introspection and a total unwillingness ever to admit fault. You wind up with a narcissist, and that's exactly what she is. And it went on like...
Well, I think the issue with a lot of it are these people literally have a physical inability to admit fault in any way, shape, or form. Like, they can't go, yeah, I fucked up right here. They have to go, I fucked up. No, you fucked up by catching me fucking up. Actually, you fucked up. That's what they do.
This for hours and hours. One of the most interesting moments in that hearing came from the testimony of Fani Willis's friend, Robin Yearty. Now, Yurti said that Willis and Wade began having sex in 2019. That would be 3 years before Willis and Wade said they started having sex. Now, if that's true, if the sexual testimony is accurate, that would mean that Willis started having sex with Wade before she hired him to investigate Donald Trump. Watch.
So you know that their relationship, their personal relationship, began shortly after this municipal court conference.
Yes.
And when I say personal, romantic. I just want to make sure we don't get in an argument over what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Why? You're in court, right? You realize that?
And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
So this is the moment when it's important to remember that the United States is a great country. It's the most powerful country in the history of the world. It's got hundreds of millions of really decent, hardworking, honest people living in it. And so you have to ask, why is it run by people like that? Transparent morons who are corrupt.
Because they vote the right way. They literally sucked the right dick.
And arrogant.
Oh, we got 2 on the Awoo. Nice. Sexual Testimony would be a great name for a band. Yes, it would be. That would be a wonderful name for a band.
Again, who are mismanaging everything. Like, why did we allow that? Why do we allow that? Good question. Meanwhile, over in the state of New York, Donald Trump was just ordered to pay $350 million for the crime of taking loans from.
And the first album is called Fani.
Banks for real.
Oh shit, I did it again. At one point, I will remember this stuff at the top of the show. We have one McKinley package ready to go, and starting at the end of April, we are going to be putting together the Knights of the Awoo package, and I have some fucking amazing ideas for the Knights of the Awoo package. Oh my God. And that is for the 777, the big 777, the big 777.
Real estate deals and paying back those loans. There's no actual fraud here. He paid back the loans. These are huge banks, some of the biggest banks in the world. They were happy with the terms, but the state of New York is not happy. So CNN has been calling this a crime, of course, for months without explaining what exactly happened. Enter into that Kevin O'Leary, the famous investor from Shark Tank, trying to explain to a CNN host what this actually means. Watch this.
Excuse me, what fraud? This is not about Trump anymore. When you get a developer that builds a building and he says it's worth $400 million and he wants to borrow $200 million from a bank, which happens every day, everywhere on earth, including every American city, every developer is an entrepreneur. They shine the light on their building and they say it's worth 400. The bank does its own due diligence, as was done in this case, because they're very good at it. The banks are very good, and they say, no, it's worth 300. We're only going to loan you 150 million. That haggling has gone on for decades. That's how it works. And then in this case, even the bank that was supposedly defrauded testified and said, we didn't lose anything. We want to do business with this guy again. We'd like to, but the judge said, no. Let's penalize this developer for $355 million. And if we're going to do that, let's penalize all the developers all across America. They've all done the same thing. All of them should go to jail, and we should stop building buildings.
So there's one thing he said that is indisputable. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about our system and whether we should allow a small number of partisans to burn it to the ground for the.
Well, we talked about this a lot. One of the through lines, everything about these people, is they don't create. They destroy. They don't make anything. They just turn the stuff that we have already made worse.
Sake of winning a presidential election. And speaking of corrupt, the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, who reportedly is worth $15 million despite making less than $200,000 a year in her job. How did that happen? If true, immediately congratulated herself as always, after the ruling.
Today, justice has been served. Today, we prove that no one is above the law. No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules. We have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the marketplace. And for years, Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud. Donald Trump falsely, knowingly, inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself, his family, and to cheat the system.
He did it to cheat the system. Why is she talking like that?
To unjustly enrich himself, his family, and to cheat the system.
To cheat the system.
Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
Boo, boo, boo.
Oh, come on. So big picture, the rest of us for decades now have been bullied into allowing the dumbest and most corrupt among us to run everything. They occupy positions of power in every big city in the United States, prosecutors' offices, and obviously they're tearing down what they didn't build. That's exactly what we're watching now. Maybe we should stop allowing that. But just last night, Letitia James, who obviously likes being on television, was back on TV saying she's actually more interested in just seizing Trump's buildings, just like we did to the Russian oligarchs. Forget the money. That's not enough. Just take the property. Watch.
Why don't we just take everything?
New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
Seize his assets. Just, we don't like the guy. We can just take his stuff. So big picture, this has been tried in other countries.
That is essentially what they're doing. We don't like Trump, so we're going to use crooked judgments and crooked systems to take his stuff.
South Africa, for example. And over time, it just doesn't work. I mean, maybe you win the upcoming election in November. Congratulations. But what do you preside over when you do? Is anyone actually going to be doing?
These people would burn down the country if they can reside over the ashes and continue to start new wars with the military-industrial complex as, shit. What's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me.
Doing business in New York? What's the tax base going to look like in 10 years? Well, of course, you know the answer to that. Everyone does. And yet no one's doing anything about it. Just pretending it's all about Trump. Stephen Miller knows a lot about this subject. He was a senior advisor to President Trump. He's founder of America First Legal, which is one of the few really sensible organizations of lawyers in the United States. We're grateful for
lobbyists. That's what I was looking for, lobbyists.
Existence. He joins us now. Stephen Miller, thanks so much for coming on. So what do we learn from this? I mean, there are a bunch of different things happening at the same time, efforts to stop Donald Trump from running for president. But they all seem kind of connected thematically. What's your takeaway?
Yes, they are all very much connected. I think the first and most important point is this. You can tell who truly has power in any society by looking at who can persecute an innocent person in broad daylight and get away with it completely. They can announce that they're going to do it, then they can do it. They can finish the job, they can impose the outrageous fines, the outrageous punishments, and they can say, I just did it. And the whole entire society, the whole system can either look the other way or applaud.
Wait. I'm sorry, I have to ask. I'm sorry. Letitia James is one of the most oppressed people in American society. Okay, I've been told that for a long time. How can that not be true? I mean, that's an article of faith with me. She's oppressed.
And so this is all
Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most infamous man-made disasters. Number 1.
The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the one that guaranteed women the right to vote, was ratified in 1920.
Oh, man, that's a great one. We don't see that nearly enough. So it's cool to violate someone's First and Fourth Amendment rights in order to stop them because you don't like them. I thought Dems were the good guys. They are the good guys, and they're using all of their power to take down the bad guys. Don't you realize this yet? Geez, what are you, a racist? What are you, homosexual, Taylor?
Of the performative illusion, where she stands up there at the press conference, we're the underdog, we took on the big, powerful Donald Trump. No, you took on the leader of a voiceless opposition party in this country. What you did is you are the ruling class. You are the ones who set the terms, who set the conditions, who control how all of our legal system and democracy runs. And then you're going after the man whose job it is to stand up for the dispossessed and the disenfranchised of this country. The message being, if you out there choose among you a leader to stand up to us, we will decapitate him. That's the message they're sending. You can be...
I mean, that is literally what they're saying. You're not allowed to pick a leader. You have to deal with what we give you. And wars. Don't forget the wars. That's the most important bit. Damn, we are a cunt hair away from 20% to goal, guys. Thank you so much.
Happy about the border invasion. You could be unhappy about formalized racism discriminating against you and your children and your relatives. You could be unhappy about the decay of our cities and our system, the ruin of our education system. You could be unhappy about all your money, your tax dollars, your property taxes being stolen from you and redistributed to people who have no right to be here, to welfare cheats, and to criminals. And if you choose someone to stand up to all of this, watch us ruin him. Watch us destroy him. And even if he gets into office, as he did in 2017, watch us launch a soft coup day after day after day. And then in 2020, if we change the whole rules for elections, if we change how everything's run, if we break every single law in the key swing states about how elections should be run, watch none of our secretaries of state go to jail, none of our officials, no one implementing the system. The only people who will go to jail are the ones who deign to go to court or to a legislature to seek a redress of these grievances. And then finally, watch us violate the 8th Amendment in plain view against excessive fines. Right there in the Constitution.
Oh, that is a good one. I didn't even think about that.
Our founders feared it, deeply feared it. Watch us violate the 8th Amendment and nothing will happen. And judges will be petrified, terrified to even think of siding with Donald Trump, lest the left go after them too. This is a tutorial in who runs the society and how decayed our democracy has truly become.
Every power center in the United States and really across the West is arrayed against Donald Trump. They don't want him to run for president, much less win. But Trump does.
If Trump ends up winning in some undeniable landslide victory, they will go insane. These people will actually go insane. They're going to go, it's a national emergency, we can't switch powers right now, yada, 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 something will happen.
Have one arrow left in his quiver, and that's his voters. They are not the most powerful people in the world, but they have the most essential jobs. In general, Trump voters are not working on climate issues or ESG or diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're not staffers at the Aspen Institute or in some bloated university. They are the people who pave the roads and grow the food and then deliver it to your grocery store so you don't starve to death. They are the actual essential workers in this country. And a lot of them really support Donald Trump, and they understand exactly what's happening to him, which he is being crushed beneath the wheels of world power structures, obviously. And so some of them, truckers, long-haul truckers specifically, are now refusing, in response to what's happened to Trump in the state of New York, to deliver goods, essential goods, to New York. And that would include groceries and fuel. Jake Logan has spent many years delivering these things, fuel specifically. He's a hazmat trucker who drives all over the Mountain West through some of the most dangerous passes in the continental United States. He supports this boycott. He joins us now from Salt Lake City to tell us why. Jake Logan, thanks so much for coming on.
Is this how truckers just dress out and about, or is this his like I'm going to be on TV look?
I summarized.
It's great to see you, Tucker. Thank you.
It's great to see you. And I summarized really quickly what you do for a living, but will you just explain it a little more? What's your job, just for some context?
My job simply is to haul and deliver fuel, diesel fuel, to small mountain towns across the West, across the Rockies.
That's his TV look. He went and got his Doug Dimmadome hat to be on TV.
This most beautiful country, the finest people you'll ever want to meet.
So that would include in the winter, having been through some of those passes, 10 or 12,000 foot passes in the Mountain West. What's it like to drive a fully loaded diesel fuel truck down that grade?
It can be an adventure. Sometimes if there's too much snow, they might close the road for us. They'll have chain restrictions. We'll have to chain it up. But you'd be surprised how quickly you can get used to driving one of these big rigs, these fuel trains across the Rockies. It's spectacular.
It sounds it, and it's also essential. It's not a job that just anyone can do, and without diesel fuel, then
it is a nice hat, but it is his Doug Dimmadome hat.
Country grinds to a halt and people starve to death. So I just wanted to make it really clear up front that you don't work at some nonprofit in Boston or a biotech firm. You're actually keeping the country alive.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So with that in mind, why would you support Trump? Why would you have strong feelings about what happened to him in New York? Tell us your view.
Well, I tell you what, I am proud to stand with my fellow brothers and sisters in the trucking industry. They are among President Trump's strongest supporters. And we, along with other MAGA Patriot Americans, have been watching how this government has been persecuting President Trump. And we are fed up with it. Americans and truckers primarily are standing up and saying, we have had enough. And this boycott.
Well, I think it's very clear that we've had enough. There's no illusion of people going, no, actually, I want more hardship. No, we're good.
Boycotts have been very effective in the past, and I support this boycott, and hopefully this will just be the beginning. I would support boycotts of other blue cities, and this is our way of peacefully protesting and hopefully bringing President Trump back to the White House.
Very interesting. What the okay, there we go. All right, guys, we're going to move on to the main bit. There we go. The Cultural Revolution is here. Just ask Z Van Fleet. She lived through them twice. All right, we're going to check this out before we get into it, guys. Smash the like button. Share it out on your socials, etc., etc. You know the deal on that. Streamlabs down below. Anything you want to chuck is greatly appreciated. We have one McKinley package left. We have about half to 40% of the Knights of the Awoo package figured out, which is, it's going to be different and fucking awesome. And that's the new donation over here. We saw it once on the Sin and Sash channel. Have not seen it over here. That's at the 777. And I'm going to do another dono audit soon. So if there's one that you like, let me know in the chat or hit it up so it's fresh in my memory.
Shortly after George Floyd died, Memorial Day weekend 2020, people began to say that what was happening in the United States bore some resemblance to what happened in China 50 years ago, the Cultural Revolution, with red guards and struggle sessions, public humiliations, public atonements, a kind of secular frenzy that looked very much like a hate-centered religious rite. The Cultural Revolution. But was that overstatement? Well, She Van Fleet has seen both.
I think understatement might be the right word.
She's Chinese. She was 7 years old in 1966 when the Cultural Revolution started, and 17 when it ended with Mao's death in 1976. And along the way, she became one of its victims. She moved to this country, to Kentucky, in 1986, and she's been here ever since. So she has seen both revolutions firsthand, and she's written a new book comparing them with a warning. It's called Mao's America, and we're grateful to have her, She Van Fleet.
You know what I find very interesting? That the people who come over here from other countries where it was bad and they were actually oppressed often love America the most. And the people who come over here and claim oppression want to change America the most, but only change it in the way Democrats want to change it.
In the studio with us now. She, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. This is unbelievable that I'm here with you.
Oh, I'm so grateful you are. So you were 7 years old when the Cultural Revolution started, the equivalent of first grade. What was the moment that you realized something strange and important was happening in China?
Yes, to me, my memory is it happened overnight. And overnight, I just noticed there's a lot of what's called big character posters everywhere. It's just big pieces of paper and with words written in very large letters so everyone can read it from distance, kind of like today's social media.
Crude propaganda.
Yes, it's really, the posters is really of people denouncing others. In my school, I remember it's
like giant murals of George Floyd saying "No justice, no peace."
The papers were denouncing administrators or teachers, and it's overnight, and it's just everywhere, and in the cafeteria because that's the only place that a high wall that's indoor, and it just from a ceiling, from the floor to the ceiling, and it's class stopped, and so one day I went to the classroom, and I saw a note on the blackboard, no class for 3 days. And that 3 days lasted for 2 years.
2 years?
Holy shit. 2 years. Huh, COVID.
2 years, no school. Because the school was, like all the other institutions, was shut down by the Red Guards. And the Red Guards, and I think nowadays more and more Americans are familiar with that. And Red Guards were the kids from elementary school to universities. So they took over the country. So there's no school for 2 years. So what did we do as a kid? We went to the street.
You beat me to the COVID joke, dude. 2 years, I'm like, hey, that's a long time. Wait a minute.
So every day we went to the street, we watched the Cultural Revolution unfolding. And that is struggle sessions, parade of those people who were denounced, and eventually become violence.
So it was young people aiming their rage at the behest and the direction of the central government of Mao against not foreigners who threatened China, but against Chinese, against your own people.
Yes. And it is difficult, even for me to understand, and it took me a long time to understand what that Cultural Revolution was about. It is a revolution that Mao launched against CCP, against his own party, against his own government. Why? Because he thought he was losing influence. He thought he was no longer had absolute power. So it's really a power struggle. And this time he did not.
This is starting to sound very familiar.
Not use the armies. He did not have to. He had tens of millions of young people that he have indoctrinated in the government school for the past 17 years. They're ready to go. Just give them a call. Say, you are now mobilized to defend Mao and to defend communism. And that's what how they got the kids all involved. And
I just had an idea. I think we are at 60% thought process of the Awoo package done. Oh man, this is gonna be fucking dope.
Very familiar to Americans now. They dismantled the criminal justice system. No police.
Really?
Just like a defunct police. So the Red Guards could do anything.
This is starting to sound very familiar. Wow.
There are no consequences. And eventually...
We need to keep this shit from happening here. We cannot stop it from happening here. Because if we do try to make an effort to stop it, you'll be put in solitary confinement and labeled a terrorist.
They start to kill their teachers, kill their principals, and they kill millions of people.
The normal people who are watching this, your family, I assume, did anybody say anything about it?
Nobody can say anything, just like here. Why? because Mao openly supported them. And Mao had
Biden openly supported them.
8 rallies to meet the Red Guards in Tiananmen Square 8 times to declare that he was their Red Commander-in-Chief. And those are his little Red Guards.
So there's no dissent at all, and things just get progressively crazier and crazier and crazier. Do people think that...
Oh, man, this is starting to sound very familiar. God, where have I heard this story before?
That this was going to stop?
No one knows.
It's almost like we need a John Wick or something. Jeez.
And I remember that in the first, and started, it was somewhat peaceful because all they did was destroy the past. In Mao's words, it's the 4 old.
I feel bad about that one, honestly.
Old ideas, old culture, old custom, and old habits. Get rid of them all. That include destroy all the statues. The statues, mostly Buddhist statues, Christian statues, everything has to come down. And everything that is old has to be destroyed. So when they finish with the public spaces, they went to people's homes. And I witnessed the Red Guards went to people's homes, took everything they thought was old. Old is bad. Old is something that need to be get rid of, including furniture, people's old photos, and everything. Because the goal is to get rid of the past so we can replace it with...
Oh, this sounds... I don't like this. I don't like it. This is a little too much.
The pure Maoism.
I remember reading about the Cultural Revolution.
Because you're hungry fucking whore.
That's true.
Because you're hungry
fucking whore. Here's the cunt hair to 20%. Don't ask where it came from. You don't want to know. Ooh, thank you, Steve Dave. And we are right at 20% to gold. Bang! Thank you very much. I think if we can get to 250, we could probably get a horsecock. Haven't had one of those in a long time. Those are always fun. It has nothing to do with the fact that I got fucked over by pills yesterday.
Biography of Mao, and was so struck by how much Mao hated the Chinese, hated the country, hated the history, hated the culture, and yet he was in charge of the country. And I thought that's very strange.
So we were taught that Mao was our savior.
Yes.
And we have songs saying that he was our savior. He made it possible for us to have a better life. Why? Because he removed these 3 big mountains that had been suppressing Chinese people. They are the foreign imperialism, the old feudalism, and the bourgeois or capitalism. Yes. He removed them all. That's why we could have such happy life. So no, we never thought that that he hated us. No, he did, but we were taught we should be so grateful. And he was our not only savior during the Cultural Revolution, he really became our God.
Was there do you remember the moment that the Red Guard went from carrying slogans and yelling at people, humiliating them, to the point where they went to killing people?
Well, I mean, we are already at that point too, by the way.
Did that seem, were you shocked by that? Were people shocked by that?
Actually, it started about the same time. Because they only, in the very beginning, it only started on campuses.
A wise man's life is based around fuck you. The United States of America is based on fuck you. You're a king. You have an army, greatest navy in the history of the world. Fuck you, blow me.
Lady Monteceros for 1780 with the big facts. And I do love to see it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It started as early as August of 1966, a few months after the Cultural Revolution. The first killing took place in a very prestigious middle school for girls. They, bunch of girls, young girls, as young as 12, as old as 16, they beat, tortured, and killed their principal. That was in August 1966. And I was elementary school student. So in my school, I did not see killing, but I did see attacks by the kids. And one of the things I remember so vividly is a teacher. She's a pretty teacher, and she usually will dress kind of nicely, and that's considered bourgeois. So the kids followed her, called her names. Eventually, they surrounded her and spit on her. So after a while, she was covered with spit from head to toe.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting, depraved behavior. But literally not at all unbelievable, because we see what they do now.
And that was considered mild because she was not hurt physically. The same time we heard killing happened in middle school, especially in universities. But the police were told to stay away from campuses. And if the Red Guards hit them, they are not allowed to hit back, just like here.
So what happened to you as you got older during this period?
So the violence of the
nice, good work, just another guy.
Red Guard movement lasted until 1969.
Yes.
By then, all the power was taken down by the Red Guard for Mao. So basically, all the institutions all paralyzed. There's no one in charge. So they thought, okay, now it's time for us to get some power. And then they start to fight each other for power. And that's when it's getting really, really violent. It become almost like a civil war. They raided the military they raided the military places and got real weapon. Before it was just sticks and stones and rocks, and now it's a real weapon. And they started to kill each other.
The different Red Guard factions.
Because they thought now it's time for us to get power. And then exactly, it's the faction. It got so bad that tanks were deployed in cities where there's a lot of defense.
Luna, that's damn right. Not people.
Factory. And that's not that far from where I live. and it was not safe by then for us to go to the street. One day, a stray bullet landed under our window when we were having dinner. So it was so bad that one day, I described in my book that we were outside and we heard this really awful Chinese funeral music. And then words came back that they have a corpse parade. So it's one faction of the Red Guards try to gain public sympathy. So they had the people that were killed by the other faction on the parade. That is the time that Mao got rid of them.
So they were his creation. He gave them all this power.
Yes.
To consolidate his own.
Mm-hmm.
But once they became a threat to him, he did what?
He suppressed them.
Yeah.
Sent military to suppress them. So they, we don't know the number, the real number.
That's another thing that sounds incredibly familiar. People disagreeing, they send the military in to suppress it. Wow, I've never heard of such a thing in my life. Weird, huh? Oh, wow. How could this have happened?
But he killed tens of thousands of Red Guards. And then eventually he got them together, the leaders, and said, "You disappointed me." And then just like that, the whole movement was dismantled and they all sent to the countryside. Many of them sent to the virgin land, like a gulags, to be re-educated through physical labor. And that's how you become real communists. You can't just do the what you did in the city. You have to be really go through hard labor to become.
Let me try to fix this real quick. I don't know why it's doing this. Hold on, please. It was we're sitting at 12:33. Why not a little Spanish?
After
the same time, they used to get music.
You guys better have special like button. Or else Steve Dave will go and he'll touch your naughty bits. And you don't want that shit. Here we go.
Through physical labor. And that's how you become real communists. You can't just do the what you did in the city. You have to be really go through hard labor to become real communists. And off they go. And
It's that last part was Steve Dave is going to touch your naughty bits if you don't like the stream.
From 1969, from that time on, all city kids from high school were sent to the countryside. And when I graduated from high school in 1975, I was too sent to the countryside and doing the physical labor that was very primitive. And I stayed there for 3 years after Mao died and after Deng Xiaoping reopened universities. That's how I could go to college to study.
What did you do in the countryside?
Yeah, that is not a farm. So a lot of people think about countryside, they think about farm. No.
Yeah, countryside here is a good thing.
Yeah, no. It's a commune. Every rural area was arranged or organized as commune. Commune is collective farming. So in the commune, there are a lot of production teams. And so it's all run by the CCP. So what I did is every day we would gather in the meeting place of the production team, and the leader would tell us what to do. So we do the work, and we get a point. And then in the harvest time, you use the point.
Faustonia, you must not have liked the stream.
To get some produce, grain or potato or whatever.
To get food.
To get food, yeah. So I not only experienced, witnessed the whole Cultural Revolution, I also got 3.
Steve Dave, don't make me get the Spanish Inquisition in your asses. Oh, he's really taking what I said to heart. It's going to be some unholy retribution coming in your way. Jesus Christ, Steve Dave. Wow.
Years working in the fields and get to know how peasants live. Those peasants put Mao in power. He mobilized the whole peasantry and promised them free land. They put them in.
And again, Joe Biden mobilized the whole, he made his own class of peasantry and illegal immigrants and now wants to mobilize them. Interesting, isn't it?
Power after the revolution succeeded in 1949. The peasants, the same people that put them into power, found them in the very bottom of the society, and they were the ones that could not leave their land because of the it's called a 户口. It's like a household registration system. Yes. So they could not. They become serfs. They just really live a life of the poorest. And and I kind of, in a way, I'm glad I get a chance to be with them and to know that this is communism. This is socialism, supposedly to liberate them from the oppression of the oppressors. And
No, this is freedom and democracy, you old racist. She's clearly a Trumper Nazi piece of shit who should have the police come search her house immediately. This woman is a threat to democracy, guys.
They end up way more worse off than before. And during the famine in 1959 to 1962, up to 50 of them starved to death, the peasants.
50 million.
50 million.
Keep that in mind.
Unbelievable. So you're there 3 years. So you're there from 75 to 78. And then 8 years later, you're in the United States. How did you get here and why did you come here?
So I was so lucky that I was able to go to college at the age of 19, which is still not, because I was sent to the countryside when I was only 16. So after I got my degree, I was given a job. You don't just get a job, you were given a job. So I was given a job to teach in a teacher's college. And in the early 80s, more and more Americans come to China to volunteer to teach during the summer. So there I met a wonderful lady. Her name is Pat Nave. We become friends. And she wanted to help me to come to America. And so true to her words, she did help me. She got assistantship for me and she sponsored me. So in 1986, I never dreamed that would happen to me. And I got my visa and I was on my way to America.
Amazing.
Amazing.
And you went to Kentucky.
Oh, fuck yeah. You know what? Scratch all that shit I said earlier. I want to see some America donations. Fuck yeah. Good for this lady. That's awesome.
Kentucky. Western Kentucky University.
So you lived here, you married an American, you lived in this country, it sounds happily, from, let's just say, 86 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd gets killed, and all of a sudden, in a day, the country changes. What did you notice about those early days, late May, early June 2020, and what did it make you think as you watched it?
It's a long time coming because I start to notice things earlier, even as early as 1990s. And I remember in a class that I took, and it's about special education, when the Act of American Disability.
The ADA, Americans with
Yes,
Disabilities, 1990, 91.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And the teacher was telling us, now,
My inner eagle's preening.
that they are protected. And as teachers, that we should, I just took the class, but there are others that were special ed teachers, that we should be very, very respectful. And we should never say blind. We should say people with vision, impaired vision, something like that. I don't even remember. And I was so impressed. I said, the Americans are the nicest people. They try, to be nice and not hurt people's feelings. And now we know, right? During the process, and we were taught, you can't say vision impaired. Now it's something different. And now you know what? What's the correct way to call those people? Blind.
Blind.
Yeah, according to Stanford. Now that is the correct way. So that just reminds me of the Cultural Revolution, that there's only one correct way of thinking, of talking, and if you don't do it, you'll get into trouble. So I just noticed.
So when the language started changing and people announced that, from here on out, we're calling X, Y, we're calling, I don't know, Peking, Beijing, or the Orient, Asia, or whatever.
Kiev.
The blind, visually impaired, that reminded you of the Cultural Revolution.
A little bit. I'm just saying, if you ask me what I noticed, that was something I noticed. Because I noticed later, you can't say that. You can't, there's so many things you can't say, or you have to say it differently. And who tell you? The authority tell you. That's the correct way of saying things, and that's the correct way of basically thinking. Okay, but still, I did not lose my sleep over those things, and until later. And in my book, I did say Trent Lott probably is the person that came to my mind that I can really pin down. The moment I really say, this kind of really like Cultural Revolution. I don't even know the story. Whatever, he was called a racist because he said something. I said, that really sounds like Cultural Revolution. You say something and your life is over.
Trent Lott was a Republican senator from Mississippi who went to the funeral of the longest serving Republican senator from South Carolina, Strom Thurmond, and praised him at his funeral. And for that, he was
forced to resign, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that really made an impression on me. I think that's just like Cultural Revolution. And but things get from bad to worse. And it was way before 2020 that I know that things is really, really going wrong. Because in the workplace, I was invited to be a member of DNI. Back then it's DNI.
Do not inventory?
Diversity and Inclusion
yes.
Council. And I noticed every member has identity there. And I just realized this is not really about making people work together, help people work together. It's more like a political identity.
Yes.
And but things, got so much bad in the 2020. When I saw the Antifa and BMN burning our cities, I said, this is no longer some kind of troubling sign here, there. This is a full-blown Marxist revolution. This is exactly what I noticed or what I witnessed.
Yeah, somewhere scribe's itching his ear.
During the Cultural Revolution. So I said, I got to do something. I have to get involved one way or the other. And that's the end of 2020. I got involved with the Loudoun County Republican Committee. And after that, and we got emails, ask us to go to school board. And I was never involved politically to go and give a public speech. It was just intimidating to me. But I got so much support from the members I said, I don't even have children in school at that time. They said, it doesn't matter. We're all taxpayers. And then you should have go there and voice your opinion. So I said, okay. I've been very alarmed about what's going on in our school. You are now training our children to be social justice warriors and to loathe our country and our history. Growing up in Mao's China, all this seemed very familiar. The communist regime used the same critical theory to divide people. The only difference is they use class instead of race. And back then, you have to wear a mask. I said, thank God I have to wear a mask and that to cover, hide myself. So I went there and I did that. And I have no clue. What happened after that.
Well, I have to say one of the features, just as a foreigner reading about it, of the Cultural Revolution that's always struck with me is the mass hysteria. Mm-hmm. Rational people becoming irrational, people going crazy, getting caught up.
Well, a lot of the stuff you look for logic where there is none. And these people kind of at a base level are illogical. Nothing they do or say makes any sense to anybody except themselves. And it's always something that they stand to profit from in the end.
In this frenzy and really believing things that are absurd. I want to show you a piece of tape from the United States. This is after George Floyd's drug overdose death. And this is a table of affluent white ladies who have paid money to be told they're racist. And I just want to get your view of this. Watch this.
You guys can tell me I'm racist for money too, by the way.
Actually, Margaret, you didn't say yours.
What?
Your racist thing that you've done.
Thought about or done.
You have something inside of you that's not quite that's racist. So you must have examples in your own life.
I also work in environmental engineering.
This is what Miss Sin was talking about the other day. White women are so desperate to be oppressed.
I have absolutely no people of color, or minimal people of color, possibly the exclusion being slightly Hispanic.
Saira doesn't like her attitude.
I can say a racist thing you've done because it just happened. When you just talked to me the way you just did. This is how white women talk to us all the time. These are microaggressions.
When I say the exact same thing to my white girlfriend who says
What if I just talk to all women like shit? Did you ever consider that?
the same exact thing.
I don't care if you talk to everybody like that, right? The way you just spoke to me was straight up white supremacy. You actually just answered with racism.
White supremacy is said to be hidden in innocuous phrases and banal behavior. The smallest things could be considered
Yes, this is literally a struggle session.
Racist. It's enough that a person from a minority group feels insulted.
Absolutely. Sounding terribly white, I don't know that I was all that racist to start with, but I also would be more aware or hyper aware of my thoughts or reactions to circumstances that would be racist.
So here we have privileged white ladies being barked at by even more privileged non-white ladies about their sins, and the white ladies are loving it. Like, what is that?
That's a struggle session. Yeah. And that's something that
is.
everyone have to go through. During the Cultural Revolution, in the very beginning, that was those in power that was taken down by the Red Guards. They were struggled against in the so-called struggle session. That was brutal. Some of them were killed right there in a public trial. But everyone have to go through the gentler form of struggle session, and that's called criticism and self-criticism. So as kids, we will have that kind of a struggle session every week, and we will sit together, and after referring some of the Mao's quotes, and we will criticize self. Usually start with yourself, and you would say, and I did this and that, not quite up to the requirement by Mao's instruction, and I still have this bourgeois influence in me, and then everyone will join and say, yes, you're right. You did this and this that day. You said this and this that day, and then we go around. So
you go around and around and around.
Struggle against others, and we against ourselves. So to get rid of every little incorrect thoughts from our mind. That's what it is.
So China is, I mean, overwhelmingly Han Chinese. So you're not going to have racial lines in a country that's got one race. But if you take the race stuff out, white supremacy, it's identical, right?
Identity politics. That's exactly what it is. In China, it started with class.
Yes.
And they divide the whole population into two classes, red class and the black class. And you can figure out pretty much what it means. Red, the correct class, and black is the incorrect class. Those are the property owners, landlords, or people with bourgeois worldview. They're all black class. So they are the enemy of the state. We all look alike, right? But that's how China was divided by Mao. And I'm talking about identity. It's not something you say, oh, okay, I'm black class. No, you are black class, and that is your identity, and that is required in every government document.
Just like everybody who didn't like the stream, you're part of black class.
Just like here, race, you have to figure out. You have to figure out what your race is. There, you have to figure out what your class is, and then you pass it down to your children and your children's children, and you will forever be the enemy of the state. And here, we still have class. Bernie Sanders still talk about 1% versus 99%.
Yes.
But race is the most potent way to divide America. And that's just exactly the same thing that happened in China.
Maybe the other similarity is that the people who are screaming about privilege themselves have the most privilege, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So the people leading the struggle sections were obviously more privileged than the people being interrogated, correct?
It's in the revolution. Most of the revolution, you can see who started. It's usually the elite.
Yes.
Mao was from a rich family.
Yes.
Yeah, all his comrades are from rich family. Only people from rich family had the time to entertain how to start a revolution. Exact the same. And then they turned the people against the other elite. And that is always the case because they want people fight against each other, and that's how they control them.
So as you're starting to notice these things, do you tell your husband who's American, your children who are born here, your friends who are American, do you say, wow, this looks like what I grew up with?
They probably just call her a conspiracy theorist and tell her to shut the fuck up.
Tell anybody that?
That is a mistake that I've made. That for a long, long time, I never really talk much about my past.
Yes.
Because I want to forget it myself.
I get it,
It's
yeah.
unpleasant, it's awful. And no, I haven't shared a lot of the stories with my family and with my colleagues. A lot of them are saying, oh, she had such an interesting story, because it's awful things that you want to forget.
Yes.
And that is the mistake that I made, and that is the mistake the conservative made. They never really fight for the schools to teach the horror of communism. People don't know. People have no idea. And when I went to that school board and giving that speech, I think a lot of them have probably the first time heard such a thing as cultural revolution.
Yes.
That's
Awoo,
why.
indeed. Faustonia, the load. You know, I bet another world war. It's, okay. I bet men in Ukraine are not worried about misgendering right now. Woo, train. Okay, we got one back on the train. We had a little bit of a train going earlier. Now we are down to Juan. Thank you, Faustonia, with your over 6% homosexuality.
I say, when people like me who lived through communism, we saw through it right away. The Americans have no clue. That's why they don't realize what was happening here in 2020 and what's happening now is communist takeover. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is communist takeover.
When you say that to Americans, how do they respond?
I think more and more started to see it. But many told me they don't know anything about Cultural Revolution. They know very little about communism. They thought communism was defeated. Berlin Wall was torn down. It's over. And I think that's the mistake the conservative made.
Tell us about your speech at the Loudon event.
It's only 1 minute. And so the only thing I can say is that what's happening in our school and how you push the CRT, just to me, is just the repeat of the Cultural Revolution. During the Cultural Revolution, I witnessed students and teachers turn against each other. We changed school names to be politically correct. We were taught to denounce our heritage. The Red Guards destroy anything that is not communist, old statues, books, and anything else. We are also encouraged to report on each other, just like the Student Equity Ambassador Program and the bias reporting system. This
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised she's not been arrested yet.
is indeed the American version of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The critical race theory has its roots in cultural Marxism. It should have no place in our schools.
What kind of response did you get?
Well, people applaud, and then my minute was over, and I was just, I just left the meeting, and because I took time off my work, I have to go back and make up the time. So I thought everyone knew it. Cultural Revolution.
Oh, that's two. Bang, bang. There is a reason the evils of communism aren't taught in high school. That's true. That is very true. God damn, yeah. Wow.
Who doesn't? Well, then I got a course in later, and people want to interview, and I realized, my God, people just don't know. Americans do not know.
What and why don't you think? Why don't they know?
I think it's on purpose. That is absolutely, to me, I'm convinced it's on purpose. They do not want to teach communism, and they do not teach the horror or the history of communism, because those are in control. They are Marxists. They want to use the same tactics to gain power. That's why it's not taught. It's not taught at all. And as later from my Twitter follower, and I see comments like, in school we learned slavery, and everyone knows slavery. Everyone knows Nazi Germany. But we never taught communism. And that's why people don't know what's going on today.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably a reason for that.
Because that history has been withheld from them.
Yes.
Do you notice similarities between Mao's attempt to destroy Chinese culture, history, language, and our government's attempt to hide our history and change our history, lie about our history to the population?
That's exactly the same thing. History is so important. And as we know that whoever control the present, control the past. And whoever control the past, control the future. That's what CCP did when they took over China in 1949. They totally took over the educational system. They remade the curriculum, but what they really put their energy and focus on is to rewrite history.
Yeah.
So the history that I learned, and even today I have to get rid of all this misinformation that I received as a schoolgirl and later in college, all fictional, absolutely fictional. But that's how they control you. And you believe, just as I said earlier, you believe that communists, the CCP is our savior. Mao is our savior to save us, to liberate us. Now we.
You think Joe Biden is savior? God, the parallels here are just mind-boggling, and the lack of Awoos on the train is just heart-aching.
Heard that word too, right? To liberate us from the oppression of those, impressionism, imperialism, feudalism, and capitalism. And you believe it. And people ask me, did you question? I said, how could I question? I was told one thing, I have no access to other information. I could not think. Thinking, I think, requires you know something, you have information, you have different sources of information, and hopefully you can, go through them and come up with your own conclusion. That's critical thinking, right? When you have only one information, you can't think. I can only think one way. That's Mao's way. That's the correct way. And I have been like that for a long time. Some people will say that they see through things during the Cultural Revolution. Not me. I'm totally into it. I'm totally accept everything I was told, no matter how
So I have to speed it up a little bit, guys.
absurd it was. I accept it. Because party can't be wrong. Mao can't be wrong.
Democrats can't be wrong. Biden can't be wrong. That's illegal.
You've seen the whole cycle. I mean, you're born 10 years after the Communist Revolution, and you watched the whole cycle of it. So given that, where do you think things are going in this country right now? Where are we on that progression?
People ask me that a lot. It is really, really decades in the making in America. After the 60s, when the Marxists took over all universities, they have been creating generations, not just one generation, generations of Marxists or people who absolutely follow those ideologies. Now they are in our institutions, in every institutions, including educational system, corporations, government, and even our military. It is everywhere. So I always say that the infiltration of communism is complete in this country. And so it is really, really, we're in dire situation. So what do we do?
People think communism is just 100% government control of everything, no matter what. That's the only way it's actual communism. No, you have different levels of it.
Well, we have to start from educating people and to wake people up by telling them history, by telling them that what's going on here is nothing new. It happened before, not that long ago. It happened to me 50 years ago. The witness, the survivors are still here trying to tell American people this is communist revolution. And the goal is to destroy this country. And the goal is for the globalists, I always say globalists, to take power.
Can it be stopped?
It has to be stopped. So we have to wake people up, get involved. And sometimes I feel so, just feel like there's no hope. But many times I do feel like there's a great hope. I have been invited to talk to so many people around the country. And I met people who are parents who never involved politically, just like me. But they are involved now. They're fighting. They're fighting in the trenches. And so I say there's a hope. There's a great hope. And we can't just fight because we kind of figure we might win. To me, we have to fight because we believe in it. And what I believe in is America. And so there's no choice but to fight.
People who grew up in this country, most I know, assume that it can never get too out of control here. Yes, there's a revolution going on. We're living through it right now. But because it's America, that revolution will never entail the killing of a lot of people. All revolutions end up killing a lot of people, but ours won't somehow. What do you think?
Just looking out on the streets and the campus today, look those people who have no empathy because their empathy is guided by the ideology. That ideology.
Oof, that's a good point. Their empathy and their morality. Damn. Call to Krill. I dated a Russian chick around 03 who had grown up under communism. She She hated commies with a passion. Sounds like a good woman. Thank you, cult. I appreciate that.
It's Marxist ideology about oppressors and oppressed. The worldview is looking everything in terms of who is.
Did her tits suffer through it?
The oppressor and who is the oppressed. And that is absolutely the communist worldview. And for those who are oppressed, anything they do to the oppressed or the oppressor is justified. That includes murder, kidnap, and raping. This is all justified, just like the Cultural Revolution. And that's what's happening in today's America. Those are the absolute result of decades of indoctrination.
So people with no empathy will kill.
Will kill. And today they're just out there accepting.
3 on the Awoo train. Tucker should interview that hot young Asian chick that talks about communism. I don't know who you're talking about.
Justifying and celebrating violence. It's only a short step away from committing violence. Those kids in China that killed their principal, their teachers, they're not monsters. They're not. They were, actually, most of them were from very prestigious universities and high schools.
You know, I mean, the parallels are unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And they
so the Chinese Harvard was more radical than the Chinese HVAC repair
Absolutely.
school. Yeah.
Absolutely. The Cultural Revolution started in Tsinghua and Beijing University, the top of the top. And the Red Guards that committed murders were the best of the best, supposedly. And then they kill. And there's one short step that we'll see this happen if we don't stop it.
When you say that, do people take you seriously, do you think, in this country? Do they believe you?
I think the people who listen to me, yes, they believe me. And that's why I think I play a very, very important role, because I'm telling people not something I just learned from books or just I did some research. It is from my lived experience using the left terminology. I lived through it. I saw it. And absolutely, this can happen here. And this will if we don't stop it.
So, but our system was supposed to, we were taught growing up that our system would never allow something like this to happen because it's a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And the people are in charge, and you can vote them out if you don't like them.
I know.
What do you think of that?
I love what John Adams said. Our system, our constitution is made for moral and religious people, and it won't work for any other. And the constitution is still there. The rule of law is still there, but the people have changed. And that is what's happening today. We are dealing with Marxists and communists who control our institution. And so they can use this democratic process and carry out their agenda and destroy everything on the path.
So the process itself is irrelevant. It depends on the intent of the people.
Yeah, and people have changed. The people have really changed.
Why do you think that? Why do you think they've changed?
Indoctrination, decades. And just think about it. From the 60s, it's several decades. That's the power of indoctrination. That's why I always tell people the only way for us to win the war is to get our school back, get our university
That's good.
back, and of course media, because those are the institutions that shaping people's mind, and they are all in the hands of Marxists.
Need to get the schools back. That is the most important thing about all this. We're letting insane people run our schools right now. The asylum is literally being run by the inmates.
What motivates Marxists?
Power. Power. When you think that way, everything's easier to see. I did not know why Mao would just launch this revolution that destroy everything, destroy people's lives, my life, and every power. Power. He wanted to launch the Cultural Revolution because he wanted to have absolute power, and he did. In the process, he became not just the supreme leader, he became our God.
In China today, are average people aware that the Cultural Revolution happened? Are they upset about it? Do they talk about it?
That is a great question. I think it's so important for people to understand. People in power, they want to control history, and they want to erase inconvenient history.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened in China. Young people were not taught Cultural Revolution. And
just like we're not taught it here.
When they talk about it, they were told that was the anti-corruption campaign. That's it. And the young people, many of them never heard about the Tiananmen massacre because it was not in the history book, not taught, forgotten. All the history of the atrocities by the CCP were not taught to the new generation.
Is it, I mean, if it's not very reassuring that the political party that killed tens of millions of people is still in power.
Absolutely. Because they control the history.
Yeah.
You don't know. And young people don't know, and old people dare not to talk about it. And that's happening here. We don't know history. People who know, a lot of them don't want to talk about it.
My last question to you. You survived all of this first revolution. What advice would you give to Americans for how to respond to our revolution right now happening in this country?
I would say you understand what's going on. Only when you understand what's going on, you can fight back. Otherwise, you can't fight something you don't understand.
Yes.
And it's not some kind of crazy kind of Democrats that they just do some crazy things. No. This is absolutely a full-blown communist revolution. And the goal is very simple. It's just one, destroy this country so some people can have total control of power.
So it has nothing to do with improving anybody's life.
No.
No, it's all about power. It always has been.
And if you want to save this country and save it for your children and your children's children, you have to get involved. You have to fight back, as your life depends on it.
With that, Xi Van Fleet, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations on this book.
Thank you.
Horrifying as it is.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was good. That was damn good. But with that damn goodness, guys, I must draw tonight's show to a close. The Awoo train will roll over to Friday. Guys, thank you for coming and hanging out. Thank you for an incredible show this evening. You guys have a lovely, lovely evening. I'll see you tomorrow for the Sunday Wednesday stream. It's going to be a banger. It's a rager and the AAA. Good night, guys.